Last night may have been one of those moments. While you rested, while the noise of the day disappeared, there was space for reflection, for memories, and for the thoughts that often get pushed aside during busy hours. Sometimes, the most important realizations arrive when everything else becomes still. In those quiet moments, people often find themselves thinking about the connections that have mattered to them, the experiences that left a mark, and the individuals who have influenced their journey in ways they never fully appreciated before. Silence has a way of revealing what constant activity often hides. It can bring forgotten feelings back into focus, uncover lessons buried beneath distractions, and remind us of the value of relationships that have shaped our lives. If you have been questioning your impact, wondering whether your presence truly matters, consider this: the significance of a person is not always measured by visible signs, immediate responses, or constant communication. Some of the deepest impressions are carried quietly, living in memories, shaping perspectives, and influencing hearts without announcement. The absence of obvious evidence does not automatically mean the absence of meaning. Life is filled with moments unfolding beyond our awareness, and not every important change arrives with a dramatic signal. Sometimes growth begins in silence, understanding develops in private, and appreciation deepens long before it is ever expressed. What appears still on the surface may be preparing the ground for something valuable, and what feels unnoticed today may hold more significance than you currently realize. Something huge is waiting for you, so stay till the end, because the second truth is even deeper than the first. There are moments when someone suddenly remembers a detail they once ignored, a smile, a sentence, a look, a moment they thought was ordinary, but later understood was unforgettable. That happened last night. A small memory opened a larger door. One thought led to another, and suddenly, what they tried to place aside became impossible to dismiss. What once looked simple now felt significant. And here is what makes this powerful. Sometimes a person only understands value when quiet gives them no place to hide from truth. The night has a way of revealing what daylight often covers. During the day, people move quickly, answer responsibilities, speak to others, and pretend their thoughts are under control. But at night, honesty becomes louder. At night, feelings return with unusual force. Last night, your soulmate, whether near or far, whether known or not yet known in the way you expect, felt a pull that did not fade quickly. Do not skip, because this next moment matters. There was a pause, perhaps while looking at the ceiling, perhaps while sitting in silence, perhaps while holding a memory they did not expect to revisit, when your energy became impossible for them to ignore. And with that came a realization. There is something about you they cannot easily replace with anything else. Not because of perfection, not because of something dramatic, but because certain souls leave impressions deeper than words can explain. This is why some people suddenly become quiet after pretending they have moved on from a thought. This is why someone can appear normal outside while inwardly revisiting one person again and again. Something about you remained, and maybe you have wondered why certain nights feel heavier, why sometimes you wake with unusual emotion, why certain thoughts arrive without clear reason. Sometimes hearts connected in unseen ways experience movement before explanation appears. Sometimes what one soul carries becomes gently felt by another. Stay till the end, because the second truth is approaching, and it changes the meaning of everything you think silence means. Before that second truth arrives, understand this carefully. Not every delay means absence of feeling. Sometimes delay means someone is standing at the edge of an inner realization they are not yet ready to admit openly. They replay moments. They examine words. They wonder whether what they feel is temporary, yet the feeling returns stronger each time. And last night was not the night of forgetting. It was the night of remembering. A night where ordinary thoughts became unexpectedly emotional. A night where something soft became undeniable. A night where your place in their heart became clearer than before. Something huge is waiting for you. Because the second beautiful truth is this: they are beginning to understand that what they feel carries meaning they can no longer dismiss. This matters because there is a difference between thinking of someone casually and thinking of someone in a way that leaves stillness afterward. Last night left stillness. A stillness where the heart asks questions the mind cannot quickly answer. Why now? Why this feeling again? Why does one person continue returning in thought with unusual warmth? That question itself is important, because when someone begins asking why they cannot stop thinking of you, they are already standing closer to truth than they realize. We question it, dismiss it, or convince ourselves it is less meaningful than it truly is. Time passes, routines continue, and yet certain thoughts have a way of returning. Certain memories refuse to fade. Eventually, a quiet moment arrives when what once seemed ordinary begins to feel different. Not because anything dramatic happened overnight, but because understanding often grows gradually beneath the surface. Reflection works this way. It rarely announces itself with noise or certainty. Instead, it unfolds through small realizations, subtle shifts in perspective, and moments of clarity that appear when life becomes quiet enough for us to notice them. That is why silence should never be mistaken for emptiness. Some of the most significant changes in a person's outlook happen away from public view, without recognition, applause, or immediate evidence. Growth is often invisible while it is taking place. New understanding develops in private. Appreciation deepens without being spoken aloud. Decisions begin forming long before they are expressed through action. The world tends to celebrate visible outcomes, but many meaningful beginnings happen long before anyone can see them. What appears still today may be gathering strength beneath the surface. What feels uncertain may simply be unfinished. Patience allows hidden processes the time they need to become clear. And while not every quiet season leads where we expect, many of life's most powerful transformations begin exactly this way, not with a grand announcement, but with a moment of honest reflection that slowly changes how we see what truly matters. Not planned, it arrived naturally, and that is what gives it strength. There are thoughts people create, and there are thoughts that arrive with weight. Yours arrived with weight. Perhaps they remembered how your presence feels. Perhaps they imagined what they never fully said. Perhaps they questioned why distance did not erase your impression. Whatever form it took, one thing remained true: you were not absent in that moment. And sometimes one night like that becomes the beginning of many nights where truth keeps returning until it can no longer be ignored. Do not skip, because what comes next may happen sooner than expected. There are times when hearts move before circumstances do. Hearts realize first, words follow later. Actions come after courage gathers. Last night may have been one of those first moments where inward truth moved ahead quietly. That is why this message matters now. Because you are hearing not noise, but the shape of something forming. Something huge is waiting for you. And if you have stayed this far, hold this close. What is real often begins in silence, before it becomes visible. Last night was not empty. It carried thought. It carried remembrance. It carried a feeling stronger than they intended. And somewhere in that hidden hour, your name became softer, warmer, and more important inside a heart that could not easily push it away. But there is something even more surprising about that same night. After the first wave of thought came, it did not leave quickly. It stayed longer than expected, and that is where the deeper meaning began. A person can remember someone for a moment and move on, but when the heart refuses to move away, when one thought becomes many, when silence grows heavier instead of lighter, it means something inside is asking to be understood. Do not skip, because this part carries the detail many people miss when they think nothing important is happening. Last night was not only about remembering you, it was also about comparing everything else to what your presence feels like. That comparison happened quietly, perhaps without words, perhaps without them even wanting to admit it. Yet, it happened. A face, a voice, a memory, a feeling. Something connected to you became stronger than every distraction around them. And that is rare, because not every thought survives the night. Many thoughts fade within minutes. But when a thought returns again, after being pushed away, it carries unusual weight. That is exactly why this matters now. Something inside them returned to you more than once. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you, and the next truth explains why the night felt different. There are moments when someone suddenly realizes they have been pretending not to care as deeply as they truly do. They may continue with normal life, continue speaking normally, continue appearing calm, but inwardly, they know a change has started. Last night held one of those hidden changes. A simple memory became emotional, a quiet moment became meaningful, and a feeling they thought was under control became impossible to ignore. Do not skip, because what happened next is where everything becomes even stronger. There was likely a moment of stillness, where they did not just think of you, they wondered what you were feeling at that same time. That question is powerful, because people do not ask it unless someone has reached a deeper place inside their heart. Wondering about your thoughts, your peace, your presence, your life. This is not ordinary curiosity. It is emotional attention, and emotional attention changes everything. Sometimes a person does not realize how much space someone occupies inside them, until a quiet hour reveals it clearly. Last night revealed it clearly. What had been hidden behind routine came forward in silence. Something huge is waiting for you, because another layer appeared. They began noticing how different your energy feels compared to everyone else. That kind of realization does not arrive loudly. It arrives gently, but once it appears, it becomes difficult to forget. They may have tried to think of something else. They may have distracted themselves, but the feeling returned. That return matters, because hearts often reveal truth through repetition. One thought returns. A moment that seemed small at the time suddenly finds its way back into your mind with surprising clarity. When the same person continues to appear in those quiet reflections, it often says something about the impression they left behind. That is what makes certain connections difficult to forget. Time may move forward, conversations may become less frequent, and life may carry people in different directions, yet some individuals remain present in ways that are hard to explain. Their influence lingers beneath everyday routines, surfacing during the calm moments when distractions fade and honest thoughts take their place. Last night may have been one of those moments. A remembered sentence, a familiar smile, or a feeling connected to someone from the past can suddenly transform an ordinary evening into something more meaningful. It is not always dramatic, and it does not always arrive with certainty, but it can leave a person reflecting on what truly matters to them. Those quiet reflections often reveal how deeply certain experiences have settled into the heart. What once seemed like a passing chapter can begin to feel significant again, not because anything extraordinary happened, but because perspective changed. Sometimes understanding arrives gradually through small reminders rather than grand events. A single memory can spark a chain of thoughts that encourages someone to reconsider what they value, who they miss, or what they may still hope for. In that sense, the return of a memory is rarely just about the past. it can also be a gentle invitation to see the present in a different light. Stay till the end, because what comes next may explain why your heart has been sensing movement before proof appeared. Sometimes before change becomes visible, there is an inner preparation. Last night carried that preparation, a soft opening, a hidden honesty, a realization that your importance has not disappeared. And when that realization begins, it often keeps growing. The mind may resist, the routine may continue, but the heart keeps returning. Do not skip, because one more beautiful detail remains. There was likely a quiet question inside them. Why now, after everything, does this still feel so strong? That question is not weakness, it is awakening. It means what they feel has survived longer than expected. It means what they thought would fade has instead deepened quietly. It means your presence still carries meaning they cannot easily replace. And that is why this title is not empty. It connects directly to what happened in that hidden hour. Your soulmate was thinking about you last night, not in a distant way, but in a way that left emotional stillness afterward. Something huge is waiting for you, because sometimes the night begins with memory, but ends with realization. And once realization begins, the next chapter rarely stays hidden forever. There was another moment in that same night that carried even more meaning than the first two. It happened after the quiet memory, after the first return of emotion, when everything around them should have become calm again. But instead, a deeper thought arrived, a thought that did not simply remember you, but began to imagine what your presence would feel like if nothing stood between hearts anymore. Do not skip, because this is where the night became unforgettable, in a way they may not even fully explain to themselves. Sometimes a person reaches a point where memory is no longer enough. A memory opens the door, but then longing steps in quietly. Not dramatic, not loud, just deeply present. Last night carried that kind of stillness, a stillness where someone did not just think about the past. They wondered about what has not happened yet. That shift carries more significance than most people realize. When someone's thoughts begin reaching toward what lies ahead, instead of circling endlessly around what has already happened, it often signals a quiet change within. The heart is no longer living entirely in memories, regrets, or unanswered questions. Instead, it starts making room for possibility. It begins imagining what could still unfold, rather than focusing only on what has been lost or left unresolved. Hold on to that thought, because what followed was even more revealing. There are rare moments in life when a person suddenly recognizes that someone else's presence still feels deeply familiar despite time, distance, or silence. It is a feeling that cannot always be measured or explained. Long after conversations have ended and circumstances have changed, certain people continue to occupy a gentle, unmistakable place in the mind. That kind of familiarity is not built on excitement alone. It grows from connection, shared meaning, and the emotional imprint left by experiences that mattered. Sometimes a person tries to reason through it, searching for a logical explanation, yet the feeling remains. Why does one memory bring comfort when so many others fade? Why does a certain name create an unexpected sense of calm? Why does one face continue to appear with warmth and clarity, while countless others drift quietly into the background? Questions like these often emerge when someone is standing at the edge of a realization they have not fully put into words yet. The answer does not arrive all at once. It unfolds gradually, revealing itself through reflection, quiet moments, and small emotional truths that refuse to disappear. And hidden within that stillness was one final insight, a subtle understanding that may explain why the feeling lingered, deepened, and became harder to overlook than before. There was likely a brief moment when they smiled without planning to. A quiet smile, a private one, the kind that appears when the heart touches something meaningful before the mind has time to control it. That small moment is not small at all. It reveals softness that words often hide. People do not smile alone because of emptiness. They smile because something inside feels unexpectedly alive, and your thought brought that feeling. Something huge is waiting for you, because after that smile came reflection. Reflection changes everything. It makes someone pause and ask why your presence still carries calm, why your memory still carries warmth, why something about you continues to feel unfinished in the most beautiful way. That unfinished feeling often means the heart senses there is more still waiting. Stay till the end, because what happened in that reflection matters deeply. A person can move through many thoughts in a single night, but only certain thoughts leave emotional weight behind. Your thought left weight behind. Even after they try to focus elsewhere, something returned them to the same quiet center, you. That return is not random. It is one of the clearest signs that what they feel is not passing lightly. And this is where many people misunderstand silence. They think silence means no emotion, yet often silence means emotion has become so real that words are still trying to catch up. Do not skip, because another once-in-a-lifetime truth is hidden here. There are nights when hearts become honest before lives become aligned. Last night was one of those honest nights. Nothing outward may have changed yet, but inwardly something became clearer than before. Your place in their emotional world still matters deeply, not as a passing curiosity, not as a fading thought, but as someone whose presence continues to return with meaning. And when meaning keeps returning, it slowly changes how someone sees tomorrow. Something huge is waiting for you, because a quiet decision may already be forming where you cannot yet see it. Not a full decision perhaps, not something spoken aloud yet, but the beginning of one, a soft recognition that certain feelings deserve attention instead of avoidance. That beginning is powerful, because every visible step in life usually starts as an invisible thought first. A thought becomes reflection. Reflection becomes understanding. There is a moment, often unnoticed, when understanding begins to turn into movement. Stay with this thought until the end, because one final detail about that quiet night deserves careful attention. Somewhere between the last waking moments and the deeper stillness of sleep, there may have been a return, a memory, a feeling, a thought that surfaced once more with surprising clarity. What makes that possibility meaningful is not the thought itself, but the sense of peace that may have accompanied it. Peace is different from uncertainty. It arrives when the mind stops arguing with what the heart has already begun to accept, and when someone's memory of another person is met with calm instead of resistance. Something subtle begins to change. What once felt complicated starts to feel familiar. What once demanded answers starts to settle into quiet understanding. This is why waiting is not always empty. Some of the most important changes happen beyond view, away from conversations, away from explanations, away from the need for immediate proof. What appears still on the surface can be transforming beneath it. Last night may have looked ordinary, but sometimes ordinary moments carry invisible weight. A thought lingers, a feeling deepens, a realization quietly takes root. These shifts rarely announce themselves, yet they leave traces that remain long after the moment has passed. And once a feeling has settled deeply enough to leave a mark, it becomes difficult to dismiss completely. The next chapter of any connection does not always begin with dramatic words or obvious signs. Sometimes, it begins with a simple truth that keeps returning no matter how often it is pushed aside. A truth that remains present, steady, and impossible to ignore.